What's up, guys? It's spring, it's gardening season, and if you want a Neolithic project, there's nothing cooler than building a wattle fence out of the Stone Age to help protect your gardens, and we're going to show you how. What's up, everybody? My name is Chase Pipes, and you're watching Chasing History, brought to you by the Smoky Mountain Relic Room. And on this episode, we're going to show you how to build a Neolithic wattle fence. This is one of the coolest fence types that you can do, at your own home if you want to. It's a really neat type of experimental archaeology, a way that you can get involved with reviving a structure from the past. Not everybody has the time, the tools, or equipment to build, Neolithic huts or, bows and arrows or anything like complicated like that. But a wattle fence is something really simple that you guys can do, and we're going to show you how to construct one. This is a wattle fence that I built last year. Basically what you're doing is you're going into the woods and you're cutting saplings, small trees, using the larger pieces as posts, and you're using the smaller branches to weave in and through. You're basically setting the post and creating like a basket walls where you weave the branches in and through on opposite sides. This type of fence goes back, the Romans were one of the first people to record this fence structure in Britain, and archaeologically I think they've got it going back 3,500 years. More than likely this fence type structure, which is very easy and which every primitive group in the world constructed at one point or another, goes back over 5,000 years. So this has been used for a long time. The Cherokee even made their houses out of this type of construction, where they would take bigger posts to fix them in the ground and then weave like a basket upside down, weave the branches through them, and then attach a daub to it. This would be called the wattle, and the mud that they would mix with straw and clay would be called the daub, and these branches would help support the weight of that mud, which would create an insulated room. So we're going to create a fence. Now, what are fences? Why do I want to even do this? I mean, is it because it looks cool? Well, yeah, that's one part of it, because it does. It looks really freaking cool. But another and more important reason is as protection from animals. So, I'm up here in East Tennessee, and we've got raccoons, which go after corn. We've got groundhogs, which are a menace and were invented by the devil. Like, there's no way that groundhogs were not created by the devil. Those are my current adversaries, but also I've got a lot of chickens. And when I plant things into the ground, chickens love to get in here and scratch at the ground and tear things up. And when I've got young plants, that's not a very good thing to have, because the chickens will pick and destroy those younger plants. So we want to keep the chickens and the animals out. So that's why we're creating this fence structure. So I've got another garden down here, and what we're going to do is we're going to build this fence structure around the original garden down here, and I'm going to show you guys how that's done. All right, so we come up to the woods behind the house. So what we're going to do is we've got our chainsaw with us. We're going to use a little bit of modern tools just because I don't have time to play Neolithic all the time. So we're going to use some modern equipment. We're going to go into the woods. We're going to pick out some trees that are going to be good for a post, and pick out some trees that are going to be good for a wattle. So we're going to head up in the woods, pick out those trees, cut them up, and load them up, fold them throw them into the truck, and back to the house. So what I do when I look for trees is, because this is a fence type that is gonna have to be redone in a couple of years, I don't want to just plow everything. So I really want to try to, look at this as like a garden and try to plan for things for next year. So one of the things that I'll do is on trees that I want to pick for next year, that I want to go straight and tall, I'll just kind of prune them like a gardener would prune plants in his garden or in his orchard, so that way the trees can grow straight and tall. And here in a couple of years, so what this will do is this will cut all this lower growth off, and it'll force the tree to grow straight up to get that sunlight and energy. And so in 5 years or 3 years, next time I have to build this fence, I'll have a nice big round tree that I can use. Same with this one right here. I'll cut some of the limbs off of it and just leave it for the future. And this will be a good one. That'll be good to use in a couple of years. So even these smaller ones, we'll kind of trim some of these up If I've got a bent in a twig, I'll even look for what direction would be good for this tree to grow. Think that way. So we'll let that grow. So while you go through and pick out trees, it's good to look at ones that you can, that you know in a couple years will be good and strong, and you want to help those trees. So you kind of look at this as like a garden. You know, what do I want to use for now, and what do I want to use for the future? So these are going to be good trees to wattle with. What this will also do in the woods is it'll create areas of sunlight where these other smaller plants and trees can then thrive and grow up. I mean, you know, you can come in and clear cut a forest and it'll still thrive no matter what you do to it. So this, I think we can weave around this. So we'll leave that intact. This is a little too small. This might be a good post tree. So we're looking for not just ones that we can weave in, we're looking for ones that we can drive into the ground. So this will be a good one that we can drive into the ground. So let's go ahead and get these cut and then we'll move deeper in the woods. So battery-powered chainsaws versus electric chainsaws. So I've used both. It depends on what you're doing. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments down there. Why don't you use an electric chainsaw? Battery-powered is shit. It depends on what you're doing. For light stuff like this, like what we're doing, just cutting down these little trees, an electric chainsaw or battery-powered chainsaw is perfect. It's light. It's easier to weave through denser areas like this. If you're cutting up a tree, you definitely want to use a gas-powered chainsaw because you're going to need that extra oomph. For stuff like this, I do recommend a battery-powered chainsaw. It's not going to be as powerful, but you don't need a lot of power on these little things. So that's why I've got to let my electric chainsaw, battery-powered chainsaw out here now and not my gas-powered one. So take that, comment section. All right, so one thing that we want to do is we want to get as close to the base as we possibly can. One, because this gives you more wood to work with, gives you greater length, but it also, when you're walking through the woods, you're not tripping over trees, and it'll allow that tree to find another spot on the roots to grow back through. So we're not technically killing the tree, we're just cutting off a section because that root system's still going to be intact, especially when we got growth like this already coming off that branch. So we want to try to move that growth down so that we don't damage that, so we get another tree coming up. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how you can weave a tree to get more out of it. So what we could do is we could just cut it along the line and just get two branches to weave out of, or we could weave it together and get two big branches. So what we'll do is we'll weave it together and get one good solid branch out of it. So basically it's just wrapping it around, just wrapping everything around the tree, and then the further you go up, you can actually start to braid the tree, which is what we'll do when we get a little higher, if possible, which it doesn't look like it's going to work that way. So yeah, this isn't a good one to braid. Well, we got a little bit of a braid here. And you just do a braid like you would any other braid. And this is another reason why it's good to do these kind of projects in the spring when the sap's starting to rise in the trees, so that way your branches don't break on you as you braid. So just do a real simple braid. And here we go. We've got a little twisted tree. The parts that are still sticking out, what we'll do is we'll cut those off. So let's go ahead and cut these out. Leave them in the woods where they can do the most good. A little bit of this excess here. There we go. We got us a little extra. Now the one thing about this though is that yes, within a year or two, This will be a lot weaker than if we had done just a solid branch. But that's okay. I think that's fine because these things are really easy to fix and patch when that happens. I mean, you can just get smaller saplings, just weave in their place. And when you're someone like me that doesn't really have a lot of spare time, this is a really easy method to use in order to make the most out of what you're cutting. So we'll throw this in the back of the truck and let's go get some more. So we got 3 decent branches. Just kind of bring everything together. Start this one. Sometimes they don't want to play nice. Just got to work with them. Make it play nice. Now this style of fence building was used by just about every primitive culture that ever existed anywhere. I mean, you know, they've got examples in England going back to before the Roman times. The Romans used this. In medieval Europe, they used this. In ancient China, and even here in prehistoric Native America, they used this. The Cherokee, for example, would make their houses in this fashion, where they would take basically long poles like we're doing, thicker poles, fix them into the ground in a circle, and then weave smaller poles between them. And then they would do a wattle and daub, which is where they would take mud and earth and straw, grasses, and mix it all together and pack the sides, cake the sides with it, where the wood would act as a fixture within the wall to kind of help support and hold the weight of that wood. And that's how Cherokee houses were built, out of this same construction. In the summertime, they would do the same thing, where they would weave the branches through. The only exception is they wouldn't do the wattle and daub part. All right, there's a good one right there. There's another one. I think I can get some weave on, at least somewhat. I'm gonna give it a try anyhow, best as we can. This is why springtime is the best time to do this, because these are, well, that didn't work, because these trees are pretty bendable, because they have the sap rising. So you can basically bend them just about wherever you want. Same thing, we're just going to braid this. Braid this just like we would hair or anything else. It's easier to braid on grass or on bare ground where you can kind of see the branches a lot better. But be it that we're in the woods, we don't really have any other option but to just go with what we got. And if while you're braiding, some branches break or crack on you, that's okay. Just keep braiding up. Just keep braiding up, because they'll fix in place with the higher braids. So just keep braiding. So as we're going up, what we're noticing is see, I'm running out of branches to weave with. Well, pick your weaker branch, so whichever's your thinnest, which is this one right here. You got this branch coming up. Well, when you go back through on your weave, just spin it around and grab that other branch and incorporate that other branch into your weave. All right? So now what's happening is, hey, Bearcat. Bearcat came to join us. Hey, kitty. Hey, kitty. This is the only cat in my life I've ever had that'll follow you around like a dog. That's a good kitty. All right, so as we notice, now this one's running out. Well, look what we've got. We've got another branch coming up here. So as we go down, we'll just grab that other branch and incorporate that other branch into the weave. And as we go up and continue around, we'll just start grabbing those other branches and incorporating those other branches into our weave, and that will help make a good solid braid all the way up through your main branch where everything stays together. So you see now we have a really nice braid. So what that did is that made the thickness of this basically continue for the entire length of the branch, which is really good. It's something nice that we want. It's hard to fathom, but I mean, all these woods were once logged and harvested 3 or 4 times over. I mean, even in this woods, I mean, this looks like a fairly old woods, but you know, this woods is only, you know, 70 years at the oldest. So all of these things in this woods is all grown off of the past 70 years. So, you know, there's a couple of, you know, mature trees like those oaks here, and we've got some shagbark hickories back here. But, you know, this has been logged over and over and over again. So, and everywhere you are, that's what you got to keep in mind. Everywhere you are and everywhere where you've been, you know, logging has taken place in the United States. I mean, frickin' everywhere. Not only once, but sometimes dozens of times. And that's just the nature of, you know, forest in America. By 1900, we had logged all of our old growth forest east of the Rockies. They were all gone. So there was just a few places here in southern Appalachia, particularly in eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina, that were still intact. But by 1930, those were all gone. So we don't really get a chance to see what those forest ecosystems were like. But, you know, managed forest is what human beings have done forever. I mean, even Native Americans managed forest. You go to areas like, you know, an area that's called Sycamore Shoals, or an area that's called Chestnut Hill or Hickory Ridge. Well, that's because there's this dominant species of tree that has existed in this area, primarily cultivated by Native Americans, where they would ensure that this one dominant species of tree would exist, chestnuts, for example, or acorns or hickories, any of your nut-bearing trees, where they would make these giant groves out of them just by thinning out all the other species and letting this one dominant species thrive. And that would be an area that they would return to year after year after year after year. And we know this because of what's found archaeologically. Chestnut Hill that I used as an example, that's not too far from here. It's an area up against a place called English Mountain. In that area, archaeologically, where this old name comes from, is one of the largest concentrations of nutting stones anywhere found in the state of Tennessee in the Archaic era. I mean, nutting stones are basically where you take the nuts and you break their hard shell. It's a stone with little divots in it just for cracking these nuts. So you've got the name Chestnut Hill in association with these nutting stones that, you know, is one of the largest concentrations ever. That was a managed forest, and that is shown again and again and again and again. So it's just, I don't know where I was going with that point, but it's just one of the really cool things about the United States. All right, let's go build a wattle fence. Come on, kitty, 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 kitty. Let's go. So here's the panel that we've already got started. Right here on the end, you can see what this looks like when it's freshly done. So just a real simple weave through. What I'll do later on is I'll go through like I have for here, where I've taken my tools and I've gone back through and I've kind of clipped and trimmed everything up. When I'm finished, I'll do the same down here. Just try to, you know, clip and even everything up and make it all look nice. Right now we're just trying to get it done and get it into the ground before it gets time for planting. So we've got one more panel. We've got a panel to create right here. So let's go around the corner and start cutting our poles and start creating this panel. All right, we're gonna pull all this stuff out and we are gonna pick what we are going to use to weave with and what we are going to make our post out of. We want to pick the straightest ones to use as posts. So these bendy ones, we're not going to use not only the straightest ones, but the thickest ones. So that's going to be a good post. All right, so let's go measure how much space we got, how long we want it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a fence of about 25 inches high and setting my post up about 30 to 34 inches. So we want to maintain that all around. The reason why I'm building this fence is to keep out groundhogs, rodents, mostly my chickens, because the chickens will get in there and scratch and peck at greens and things, and I don't want that. So it's basically a barrier to keep animals out, which is why we're building it, which is the exact same reason why it was built 100 years ago and 1,000 years ago, to act as a barrier for animals to keep your food safe. So what we'll do is we'll pull this back. Right now I've got this temporary barrier set up to keep my chickens from hopping in here and eating my greens or any of the other things that I have growing. So this will be our next group. So we want our post to be 34 inches tall, and we want it to sink down into the ground about a foot and a half. So we're going to try to cut our posts at about I'd say we're going to try to cut our posts at about 50 inches. That ought to give us enough room to get into the ground and still be, that gives us 15 inches in the ground. So 12 inches through this and another couple into the clay down below. So 50 inches is what we're going to go for. So let's go cut our posts. We'll probably need 1, 2, 3, 4 posts. I think we got that much. Chicken, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're not supposed to be in the truck. Get out of the truck. Get. Fucking chickens. Okay. So we've got our 4 posts picked out. What we're going to do is we're going to mark on the post where we want to cut. We want to be at about 50 inches. So we'll measure each post out to about 50 inches. And we'll cut. So this is one where we had talked about weaving branches earlier. One of the things that you can look for is you can look for parts where you can make posts out of one section of it and leave the weave part to weave in. And I'll show you how that's done, which is what we're going to do with this one. So we've got 50 inches at about here. So I'm just going to make a real easy cut on the tree so I can see it with the chainsaw and cut it that way. So get 50 inches here. Got 50 inches here. And this doesn't have to be exact. There's nothing about this that has to be exact. That's the beauty of doing this type of construction is that, you know, it's as free form as it gets. I mean, you can change things and adjust things as you go, as time goes on. So there's 4. All right, now what we're going to do is take our machetes, just cut a good point on it. Because we're in a hard clay, we want to get a good sharp point so that it'll get down into that clay. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can peel the bark off of all these. That's kind of recommended because it helps to prevent bugs from getting inside and eating it up. I tend to leave the bark on because honestly, I don't have the time to peel the bark off. So I'm just going to leave it on. The next thing that I'm going to do is see where we've got these knots. I want to smooth those out. So I want to get rid of those because as you'll see, as I go to put the branches, weave the branches through, I want it to be as smooth and as easy as I possibly can because those branches are going to be really, really, really hard to weave in. It's not terribly easy to weave those in. So I want to get off of the tree as much of these knots as I possibly can. So, yes, there you are. You're the reason. You're the reason we're doing this. This is all your fault. I wouldn't have to be demoing this if you didn't exist. Because of you, I have to build a fence. So go on, go. Go eat bugs or something. Tools that you'll need are pretty easy. Just a good sledgehammer, good hand hammer. And because I'm in hard clay, I use this little rock pick. What I'll do with this is if I'm getting down into the clay layer and it's really hard for me to get my point in the clay layer, I'll go ahead and make a point with this that opens up that clay to drive that stick down. It's kind of like drilling a hole before you put in a screw. Same type of method and process. So the next thing is how do you know how many to put in, how many that you're going to need? So what I basically do is I'll divide it. I'll take my bigger posts, which are going to be these two here, put one on one end and one on the other end, okay? And then we'll divide in the middle, so we'll use our tape measure, and we'll put two equidistant between these. If you're really bad at math like I am, you can just eyeball it and see how it works. So that's 38 inches, that's 37 inches, and that's 30 inches. So that means I can come back on this a little bit, a couple inches. I can come back on this a little bit, a couple inches. Maybe that should be good. 34, 34, 34. All right, so now we got it equidistant apart. So I'll take my hand hammer and get them started. Now one thing I want to keep in mind on is how tall I want this. So I want this fence, you know, to be high enough where the chickens can't get out and equidistant all the way around. So I've been trying to keep these pieces at about 34 inches. So right now I'm at 35. Go down just a little bit more. That's about as far down as I want to go. So it's your own personal preference how far you want it to go down or not. So that's just entirely up to you. All right, so we should have plenty for a good weave. So we'll bring them up here, lay them out, and we'll spread them out so we can see which ones we got. Now there's really no particular order. I do try to use the bigger and straighter ones for the bottom. That just starts us off really good and really strong. You know, you always want your foundation to be really strong, and that's what we're going to do here. So this is pretty much our best one that we have. So we're going to start with this guy. We're going to weave it through. So we're going to pick a side. Let me do this. Let me clean this up where you guys can see it really good, what we're doing here. Now, if you notice, I've got a raised bed out of railroad ties that have not got any creosote in them. They're non-creosoted railroad ties. So I can't put post here, so what I do is I extend some of these branches here to fill this gap so that things can't get in between my sections of fence. So, but let's clean this up here where you guys can really see. So, got a little hook here. That's going to be really good for hooking into this piece. So, we'll put it on the inside right there. All right, and we're going to weave it just like a basket right there and push it all the way down. Bring it up to about the spot that you want. Push it down all the way. There we go. There's our first weave. Real simple. So let's take the second biggest one. What I'd like to do with these is I'll watch the fence as we go. If I notice that if I do all thick ends on one side, then I'm going to have a taper, because the way the trees grow, it's going to taper towards the end. So what I'll do is I'll offset it depending on if I need to or not. So I put a thick end on this end, so I'm going to put a thick end. I'm going to start over here on this end, and we're going to do it on the opposite side. So come over here and look. We're going to do it on the opposite side right there, and we're going to go around and around and weave around to the front and bring it down like that. Okay. All right, we'll push this down to the ground. It depends on if you want to leave it a little extra. These posts I don't. It's the branchy part that I tend to leave on as extra. So we'll bring this all the way down to the end, push it down, and we'll cut this flush later. So, all right, let's get our next one here. Save that one for later. So again, opposite side is the last one. Opposite side, weave, weave, and weave, and down you go. I mean, guys, this is about as simple as it can get. It's not that terribly complicated. And then again, opposite side, weave, 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 down you go. Opposite side, weave, 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 down we go. Now, as you go, what you'll want to do is you want to kind of pull them up to the right spot that you want and create some space in here. You can push them all the way down. I just always try and give it a little extra room. So, well, I was hoping we would have enough to complete a whole panel. It's amazing how much work goes into these things, and by the time you're done, you realize that you've got to go back up in the woods and cut some more because you don't have enough for a full panel like we're gonna have. So that's the thing, guys, is this is so freaking easy. It's a lot easier than you think, and a lot of fun, and something that you can get your kids involved in. So let me go get the chainsaw and we'll clean this up a little bit and trim it up. And we've got one panel that is pretty much done. All right, so I just trimmed it off to where there's enough space for the next panel to butt up against. This stuff that's good and braided like this, if you want to, you can weave it into other sections. I mean, don't be afraid to use it. Now, you can weave it in and use it however you want to. I mean, once it's dry, it's gonna stay pretty good shape. So we'll just weave it in like that. Try to help fill this gap in right here. And we'll take our tool, trim it up a little bit. Now I will say this, I'm not at all proud of this. We kind of did this. This was a last minute thing that we decided to film. And in all honesty, this isn't finished. I'm gonna switch out some of these branches, and I'm gonna bring it up another couple of inches. But this kind of gives you the basic idea of how it works in the design, how the wood's gathered. If we get enough people in the comments that want to see a follow-up video, we'll come back out and show you guys another video on how this works and do a much better job. So we apologize if this isn't up to everybody's snuff. But like I said, this was last minute. I was doing this anyway in my garden, so we figured, what the hell, we'll just throw it up on YouTube, see if people out there appreciate it, and we hope you guys do. So we're gonna go through and trim out the rest of this, make it look neat and nice. One thing that we'll do is whenever I do get this finished here in the next couple of weeks, we'll try to bring you guys back out here and show you the finished product, and hopefully it'll look really nice. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you would, go down, smash that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment, let us know what do you think? Are battery-powered chainsaws crap? Should they all be thrown away? Are, gas chainsaws the best, and to hell with battery? Just whatever you guys want to throw down in the comments, Let us know what you think. Be sure to check out the Smoky Mountain Relic Room. Now, we've got another YouTube channel, the Smoky Mountain Relic Room. That is our business page. The Chasing History is totally funded by the proceeds from the Smoky Mountain Relic Room. So if you enjoy this video, if you want to see more of it, go to therelicroom.com and check out our stuff there and shop with us. Check out what we got. It's all real authentic history that myself and other people who are crazy history nerds like myself go out and hunt and find and bring to you guys, the public. So anyway, remember guys, 'Cause it's history and it freaking rocks. Woohoo!